capitalism.
Okay.
This is what we live under here. This is
we live under a crony.
This is capitalism. This is what it was originally defined as. Back if you look at the earlier, who was defining capitalism, how capitalism
Today's
was
crony
defined.
capitalism is different
There's no such
yesterday.
it's this crony capitalism thing that if you look at the writers and the speech guys who were coining the term capitalism, this is exactly what they were talking about. This is what it was meant. This is what capitalism means. Is this?
Anarcho-capitalists say, well, this isn't what I want. I want something different. I want a stateless capitalism. And
So it sounds like you're saying
the
the
true
same thing.
capitalism. It's something similar. It's not too
I
different.
actually cannot tell the difference between what you're saying and what I understand by anarcho-capitalism. I do not know what the distinction is at all.
This is like a different business
At
model
all.
or something.
And the other question is, why would you even want to make a distinction, or you just want to set up your own dictionary?
No.
You're talking about the same thing.
We're using the old terms and like the newer terms, or we want to like
Because you understand what libertarians say, history is nothing but data.
I should also note that libertarianism around the world,
It has different meanings.
American libertarianism, capitalism, but everywhere else it's libertarian socialism.
Socialists, basically socialists were being persecuted. They didn't want to be persecuted, and so they started calling themselves libertarians as a softer version of socialism. Like, oh, I'm not a socialist, I'm a libertarian. And then
Actually, I think Mencken invented the word.
No, it was actually
19.
it wasn't until actually like Murray Rothbard started using
No, H.L.
libertarian.
Mencken was using that word at the turn of
That
the
was,
century.
No, it was way before that. It was Joseph. Was it Joseph?
Jacques?
France. In France.
Jacques, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the first one to coin the term libertarianism.
Well,
When
he was
France
French,
made
so
it,
what was the
when
word he
France,
used?
Was it
wrote a journal.
libertarian or whatever?
Libertarian.
Yeah, he was the first one to coin the term when France
But he was a
made it
European.
illegal to be an anarchist.
You have to remember, though,
And
the
so the
European
anarchist
are
anarchist
different.
movement in France made the word libertarian.
But there's
and
a
coined the
big
term
disjunction
libertarian
between
order
Americans
to-
and Europeans.
That's where the word comes from.
That's what Dylan wants to say. He's like, European libertarian originally meant socialist and kind of anarchist, and then later Rothbard kind of said, well, no, let's take this libertarian word that almost no one in America is using. It's only used in Europe to talk about
He
anarchist
used Mencken
socialists.
as his source.
And Mencken maybe have used it as well. Sure, he adopted it. And then Rothbard says, well, let's take it over for ourselves. And I believe in like 1985 or something like that, he said, we have finally claimed the word libertarian and we've taken it away from the socialist anarchists. You know, he kind of was trumpet effect that it was taken away from them.
And I should also note too.
Well, that's destroying the brand.
I should also note too that a lot of the early American individualists, anarchists, and libertarians, like Tucker, Albert J. Nock, all of
You're talking
them.
about Benjamin Tucker.
Yeah, Benjamin Tucker. They were all socialists too. They, you can read Benjamin Tucker's article on socialism and anarchism. I believe that's what it's.
State
Spooner
socialism
as
and
well.
And
anarchism.
state socialism and anarchism.
Using our meaning of socialism, Spooner was
Well, then
totally
I
a
think
socialist.
everybody here using that definition is probably socialist, anarchist. It's the same meaning.
In a way, if you want worker,
In a way.
if you want equal relationships between people, where workers are cooperating together, then that's socialism. If you are kind of cool with one person being the boss and one person kind of being a wage laborer, and there's like a disparity of power there that is maybe
What's
not
that
equal.
mean, power?
That's a good question.
Because that's what Rothbard is saying. He's saying as long as it's voluntary, the idea of power has to be looked at. Because in power and market and in not anarchy state, you probably always knows it, but in power and market and in power and market, he says we always have to make sure that we don't confuse coercion with power. Power is an innocent natural force like gravity or that kind of thing.
I make the distinction between domination and cooperation.
And what is domination? Like, say, suppose I'm gonna make a contract with you. See, I wonder, is it possible to have a domination thing in a free contract? Because the other person should always be free to walk away.
The other person should be able to help make the contract with it. And that's the big thing. If a lot of today's contracts you sign as a worker, it's already
They're
laid out for you.
state
You cannot,
dictated.
you cannot change, you cannot make anything for you. You don't put yourself in the contract. They give you the contract, and they're like, you're going to take this or you're not
Oh
going to
yeah,
get
when
any
you're an
money.
employee, yeah.
And-
That's why a lot of people quit their work and started their
Right,
own business.
exactly. You know, and one of the big things, you know, C4SS, I write a couple articles on there too. They have an essay called "Unequal Contracts, Unequal Power," where they explain this situation. If workers aren't able to have control of making the contract with the boss, then they are.
So you don't think the boss is a worker?
Boss has more power over the situation. Even if, all right, so even if you could say like, oh, maybe he has a legitimate role as some kind of organizer, it's unfair though that he has more power than the workers
What does that
themselves.
mean? He has more power. Isn't the other
power
person
again.
able, free to walk away? Are you saying these other people are? I'm not. I agree with you. The state screws everything up.
Yeah.
But if I make a contract with you, you can walk away.
Is there history to that contract?
Yeah.
Is it a pure abstraction, or is there history? Is it
Well,
really
in our world, the government is like
So,
totally dictating.
right, in our world, there's a
everything.
historical context of power. And so, if I sign a contract with Bill Gates, he's got the power of intellectual property on his side.
Yeah.
I can't enter into a free arrangement
Yeah.
with Bill Gates. He's got his.
Well, you can refuse to enter.
I can,
Yeah,
but
but
that's
then
I
also,
can't enter into equality with him either. You know what I mean? Like I can refuse to, I can exit, but I can't voice. You know what I mean? I can't engage with Bill Gates.
So you feel that you aren't able to negotiate. Yeah.
Not at an power.
Well, what
at
if,
an equal
so
power.
then you don't associate with it.
Well, yeah, but that's an option to disassociate.
And one of the
But that doesn't
problems
mean we
is-
have equal power. It means I disassociate with disassociate.
That's
with
the you're
someone
free to
with
leave argument, though. That's nothing more than the you're free to leave argument, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is though, it's like, especially in a society like this,
If I'm free to take another.
No, it's not leaving. It's just refusing an association.
Well, it's the same style argument, though, saying, well, I don't have to do business with someone who benefits from the state, and saying, well, I can just leave the
I
state. It's
can
the
vote
same
on three of
argument.
them.
No, I agree with you.
If there are people that are there that are benefiting from the
I
state,
agree.
they have an unfair
Capitalists
advantage.
work for some other
Yeah,
capitalists.
I
It's not.
agree. The deck is
It's,
stacked.
yeah, it's not satisfying.
yeah, that's basically the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
So,
Are you for socialism or anarchy?
Okay.
socialism.
Socialism is-
Anarchists have traditionally said that. I mean, like I have like a ream of quotes from different anarchists that said socialism and anarchism are synonymous. That all anarchists are socialists, but not all socialists are anarchists. So for the traditional, what we're talking about for anarchism, it's always been associated with socialism. However, some take it even further than that.
And I would also note that socialism there is market varieties of socialism too. That's what the early individualist anarchists like Spooner, Tucker, Dyer D. Lum, Walter Reed Clare, they were kind of all.
All right, well, but for an ANCAP, I don't see any conflict with anybody doing whatever they want to do now. Do you see a conflict if there was an anarchy going on? And do you see a conflict with people having businesses and having workers and doing? Who would stop you? Would you care?
Oh, you can't.
You can't even have business.
Obviously, you can't force people, but if free association is still an idea,
In a
then
historical context.
you can also create decentralized trade unions too.
Well, yeah, I have no problem.
As far as like property goes, like in both capitalism, property rights are respected under capitalism, right? Would you agree?
Only
Like,
illegitimate
oh, under what's considered like
illegitimate.
yeah, it's something like property. Otherwise, it's not property, right?
There's a lot of
Capitalist property
questions.
is
I know. We're trying to
Capitalist
still get to
property is
socialism and
illegitimate.
we nail that down. But okay, so we had a question over here. I want to get back to you. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So the original capitalism was defined as it was a pejorative term or whatever you call it for the people who benefit from mercantilism. It was a dirty word. It was an insult.
It meant
That's what
cronyism.
capitalist means. It was what it
Capitalism
meant.
meant cronyism.
The capitalist. That was its oldest
It
use.
was first used
by Thackeray, an English poet and playwright, in the book. It's the one before his famous one, but he talks about it was the first time capitalism was used. It was in English, and then after that I think it was Marx, and then my understanding is that Marx was right after
I
that.
really thought it was Hodgkin's Dead Marx, but I mean,
I don't.
it's,
Does that
I think
matter?
you're
I
right.
think what matters is what does
Yeah.
it mean today.
What does it mean today? Well, it can mean lots of things. A word in language can mean lots of different things. So we're distinguishing one meaning from others.
Can I
Yeah, go for
sort
it.
of fit a definition at least that we all agree upon under probably both systems, or at least not just one?
I'm
But
going-
hold on.
I'm
Let
going
me
to say-
let me just ask a question or say something like
Yeah.
either you can agree with it or say it's false or true or not.
Sure.
That at least under like anarcho-capitalism without the state, property rights are respected and not violated. They're all with every individual participating have an understanding of property rights and they respect that, right? Under capitalism, because that's kind of where the trade and production is all under the understanding of property rights, right?
So if I get you right, you're saying that you want a definition of capitalism which is about property rights.
Exactly, that fits the property rights.
Okay.
And I'm just wanting to know if we can be on the same page on that. And then I want to see if that respect for property rights is also, if you probably not agree with the terms of property or probably disagree with property in general, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
And under socialism or voluntary socialism, if it's voluntary, I don't see any property right violations anyway. So I don't understand if it's property rights are always to be respected among everybody. Like no one's going to harm no body or their property. Everything's consensual. There's really no difference. Just the way things are going to be voluntarily interacted in both systems. It's just.
He seems to have said that earlier.
Yeah,
you
I mean, like,
about
I don't
buying
see, like-
your tools and
So-
setting up a business.
So yeah, if there's no state, so naturally this stuff would occur whatever's most beneficial because no one's being forced to do anything. So people are going to go lean towards the better options of whatever's offered in the market or whatever the systems. So if what you're advocating is like so good and everything, I'm not saying it's not. That sounds cool. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it'll probably just come about anyways if it's such a good idea. Workers would probably get good benefits and everything. I mean, that's to me seems like anarcho-capitalism. People can also, that's also private rights respected. So I don't see so much of a difference so much. I mean, if it's terms are still agreed, but yeah, go ahead.
There are certain differences that we obviously only have a limited amount of time, but a lot of it has to go with how one has one's theory of property. A lot of today's anarcho-capitalists are non-proposal Lockeans.
With sticky property.
Yeah. So basically, it's a property right that allows for absentee ownership, or it refuses kind of like a common area where people still have room to walk or things like that. Because in proposal Lockeanism, you have the amount of property that you labor for. However, you do have to leave enough for other people to.
Wait, you say that like under like in an area where there's no like so one owner is more communal type thing?
No, all right. So
we're going to get pretty complex when we start talking about theories of property too. But I do respect the fact that.
Situation, though.
I just like to know what people are allowed and not to do, and we all accept that. If
Okay.
we all accept that,
Beautiful.
I'm all good, man.
All right, so
So
it is possible. You want to talk about capitalism and private property, and for you, capitalism is associated with private property, right?
it's self-body and everything.
Sure. So
self-ownership, yada,
self-ownership
yada.
going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
You own the
Stand
product.
up.
You own the product of
Yeah,
your
you
labor.
homestead,
You own the
make
your
yours,
homesteading.
you
Okay.
trade.
So what Dylan was saying is this is all based on a theory of property. It's a specific theory of property, which is a Lockean theory of property, but with Locke without his proviso. So we're not talking about the total Locke. We're talking about Locke absent the proviso.
What's
we're talking
the
about
proviso?
sticky property. The Lockean proviso. Okay, so Locke says my whole theory of property is based on the assumption that land, homesteadable land, is super abundant, that it's a free good, that anyone can just go out in the wilderness and go start transforming and homesteading.
Well, it's not really free because you gotta expend energy and time to get
Sure,
that. Too,
sure, but
so-
it's super abundant in the sense that anyone can go do it.
Means it's not.
It's available for everybody. It's like air. We're all breathing right now, and we don't need property over the air.
Isn't
Okay,
every
the
property
proviso is
scarcity?
superabundant.
Proviso is superabundance. And so for a Locke would say, if land is scarce, if it's not superabundant, well then by homesteading and privatizing it, you're taking away the possibility of a social relationship.
You're making it exclusive.
You're making it exclusive to you when it's scarce and other people need it too. So you're kind of like a mini. You're creating a
Are you
mini
talking
state.
about an
It's
island
kind
with
of
a little bit person has a little bit of water, and so you got that resource, and so therefore force can be used against you because even though it's legitimate yours, but for their survival, just to stay alive, they can use force against you. So I agree with
that's
that.
if we're taking.
I'll note
non-proposal.
that like every ethical theory
But I'm not gonna do it
flounders
just
on
so
a
they can have
scenario.
ice cream on their plate.
You know? When you start talking about like there's 4 people on the boat and only enough water to survive for 2 people,
Well, I mean,
and who
like,
has to die,
it
like
comes down
every
to
ethical
use of
theory
force.
kind of goes out the window. Like,
So you're saying when somebody claims a homesteading on a piece of land, say, and there's a shortage of it, it creates a problem that Locke and his proviso don't handle. Whereas Kinsella, Stephen Kinsella says the declaration of an exclusive decision-making power over some object it may be a definition that cuts in more than one way, and it may, as you say, it excludes other people who may want it. But I think I think Steph Kinsella would say, but it's a means of dispute resolution. And so he's saying the value of the idea of a homesteading claim on some property is so that you can minimize dispute. Now you're saying that, well, there might be more disputes if it's crowded.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm here to just reflect back what you've just said. You're saying that there's a utilitarian justification for having exclusive managerial control, because by that you can have a clear dispute resolution process.
Yeah.
I am the exclusive manager of X, therefore, like, I'm the ultimate arbiter over X. Right? Okay.
I think that's
Did I
kind of
respond satisfactorily to you?
Well, I think when you establish the way I see it as property rights, that just kind of solves all the forms of when force should be used. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like, I just want to make sure like force won't be used if no one's doing anything in the socialism society.
Oh yeah, no one would necessarily use.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, so like, I mean, like that means
Like,
basic
even
property
how
rights
would
are
you bring
respected,
down
and
the
that's
term money
capitalism.
class?
I mean,
got one
property
guy.
Yeah,
rights
it's one at a
are
time.
respected.
There's so much.
Yeah, because they've never got into
Yeah.
absentee ownership. Because you're saying apparently when somebody walks away, what's their claim on it?
There's a big question there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, if you walk away from your homestead?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
so much
I
as
think
walk
I
away,
think someone
there's-
can use it after a period of time. It just
Yeah.
kind of goes, unless there's some kind of
What
system in place to keep checks and balances on everybody.
Well, he's
Yeah.
for absentee
whatever.
ownership.
Not nothing.
He's for-
Only
yeah.
the
He's
state
for
of
absentee
society.
ownership.
Only
Like,
if
complete
it's
control. Like if
enforced
you leave it
absentee
even for like 60 years, it's still
Well, there
yours.
could be some
sure?
institution that's
I'm pretty
voluntary
sure that's
about
where I
you
heard Kinsella
enforcing
recently
things.
say
So
that.
Well,
it's-
recent,
that's what
if he
states
said it
are.
recently,
States
then
is not
I'm not for sure
voluntary.
because I've read some of his older blogs and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think he.
Me.
I think he
Because
might
states
have.
are
might-
possible
Right.
without it.
Okay.
So that's where you guys
There might be
some
some time
There is a question there for me.
where property is abandoned.
Whereas if the person is clearly there operating.
And that's where
You know, a gang of
occupancy
thugs
and use
protecting
I
comes
see.
too. So,
Well,
Are we
Benjamin
satisfied
Tucker
yet?
talked about
Are we
it.
satisfied? No?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty
Okay,
much.
and then-
Of course, if I saw
You can always
something,
come back.
just come
Did
get
you
everyone
have
else.
something?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same sort of thing. I mean, it comes down to voluntary action, right? If
Yeah.
someone wants to hire someone, they agree to work for a lesser wage than the person who's the owner of, then that's okay, right? I mean, that whatever you want to call it in a stateless society, but you can have both. Your syndicalism.
Yes. Well, I want to say, like, are we talking like a pure abstract employer-employee relationship? Or are we talking about a historical, real one?
I have a window cleaning business. I work
Okay.
with myself.
All right.
I hire a kid once in a while to work for $8 an hour.
Yeah.
In a stateless society, whatever your historical preference might be, if I start that up and a younger person, whoever, agrees to work for a wage that is a lot less than I'm going to earn,
Yeah.
it's my equipment
Right.
and my customers or whatever, I mean, that I acquire.
Sure.